Hello again. Thank you for joining our session. Before we get started, does everyone have one of our little handouts? If not, just raise your hand and someone will bring one to you. Nice. Everyone got one before we got started. So this is the Connecting You to UWG being a UWG All-Star session. So I know that we have lots of All-Stars here on our campus, and what we wanted to do today is bring and highlight a few of those to you so we can share our experiences and talk about how we became UWG All-Stars. And you can self-nominate yourself as a UWG All-Star. You don't have to get a blessing from anyone to be so. Before we truly get into our session, I want to remind everyone that we're videotaping. So we will hold all questions and comments to the very end of our segment so that we can have a nice video for those who are unable to join us today to be able to view it on Develop West at a later time, or if you want to go back and look at it again, you can do so. But we will have an opportunity for questions and comments at the very end. And so if you want to jot those down, feel free to write it on your little handout if you choose. I'm here, I feel like it's Juanita and Friends, so I'm the moderator for this session, but I will actually not be doing a lot of talking. My friends who are here on the front row will be doing so. One person that you won't be able to see today, though, is Eddie Duffy, and we wanted to give him a special thanks for being a UWG All-Star. He is getting ready for the big game tomorrow, so he just couldn't spare the time away from his All-Star duties to be here. So, but we did want to give him kudos for all the hard work he does. I know that a lot of people know Eddie Duffy, but hopefully next time he will be able to come and share with us. All right, so our goals for today. We wanted to come and share some of our examples and experiences, provide a method for you all to develop your interest and your goals, and simply it's to connect what we enjoy to UWG. We all have our personal lives and things that we just simply enjoy doing, and how can we bring that into our work life? You've probably heard people say if you do something that you love, you'll never work a day in your life. I don't know that I 100% believe that, because even if we love what we do, I love what I do, but it does feel like work every now and then. It does feel like work, but it makes the days go by faster and a little easier sometimes when we truly enjoy it. So what we've handed you is what we came up with as our little reflection wheel. And I wanted to quickly go over it before we get started, because as my friends come up and share their stories and their interests, they'll be taking components of our reflection wheel as we met and talked together about how we became UWG All-Stars. We all had some shared experiences and stories, and that's where this sourced from. We originally started off and said we're going to have a go statement. We're going to have everybody write a go statement while they're here. But those are kind of hard, and Lisa talked to us about that, and that really can't necessarily be achieved with 100 other people in the room. You have to go back and think about it. So we changed our thought process, and we decided to go with this reflection wheel. Feel free to write notes on it and make comments to yourself so that when you go back later, you have a little wheel and roadmap to follow. But it starts off with our interest, and then you see we have our arrows going both directions because you come around and around. A wheel is a symbol of never ending. So finding your connection to your organization or what it is that you're working on is a continual process. But you start with your interest, then we're going to be taking a look at our current scope of work and our responsibilities. That can be your current position or a position that you aspire to achieve. Thinking about how we can develop that professionally. We will have some examples to show how personal interests were developed professionally here with the support of the university. And then also, what's the connection back to UWG? And if anybody's flipped over, we usually look at our paper back and front before we get started. You'll see that there's the connection wheel of our strategic plan and our values on the back for you to use as a reference. So, without further ado, I bring you our first person. It's Jamie Bauer.
excited to be here this morning. I also have a little trepidation because most of you that know me in my role in communications and marketing. And I'm championing the Go West brand, and I'm working on metrics, and we're storytelling, and we're visually doing great things because of the team I have. Today, I'm going to show some vulnerability. I'm going to share a couple of hobbies that I have, and you may think, how in the world does that connect to what Jamie does every day? Well, hopefully you're going to see the connection, but no judgment about the quality work of my hobbies. Thanks to the creative team, April Saunders. My Leading by Example has a beautiful graphic to kick things off. So, how do I connect my personal satisfaction with my professional performance? I like to think of it as artful leadership. And what I mean by that is leadership is much more of an art than a science or a set of things to do. It comes from the heart, it comes from the soul. Yes, you have to be responsible, and yes, there's a lot of logistics, but I think it's not something that is a formula. It's something that you work toward and you really challenge yourself to grow in that area. So I'd like to share some visible signs of leadership through how I express myself at home. So I call this kind of the art of recharging. So the way I look at the world, whether it's in my yard, because I love to grow flowers, whether it's in my home, I'll start with all the vibrant colors of the world. Who can't have a great day if you think about the colors you see as you look outside every morning? I look at the textures and how things are layered. Look at the clouds and how everything is layered in that way. I look at the design of things, whether I'm doing something for taking a basket to someone down the street or doing a neighborhood party. There's a tone in what you do. I think people feel your passion if you love what you do. And you just take simple things and see how you can make them better. And then finally, there can be a spiritual side to your hobbies. It can really be fulfilling and rewarding for you. And that satisfaction is something that if you're satisfied and work toward being a whole individual, then I think that comes out in your leadership as you try to cascade those thoughts to others. So I did go with the go statement because I feel like this sizes up everything about me. Not that I can always accomplish it, but I love to take something simple and ordinary and to the best of my abilities make it be extraordinary. And so that's very subjective, but the fulfillment comes in there's no right or wrong, just do what motivates you. So I'm afraid Taylor Bryant is going to kill me for not running my headlines by her. So they may be on the corny side, but I thought, well, what's my version of from farm to table? So my version is taking an apple out of the garden and painting it on my kind of virtual table. And this is just for me, and it makes me happy, and it's in my sister's kitchen. So what's my version of taking the flower garden to my table? So I grow lilies, and I pick them and put some philodendrons, and I have some vases that are just retro, and I think that cost $1. And I put that on my dining table, on my side table in my living room, and it gives me joy, and I do it for me. I wasn't having company, nothing was going on. I just like the colors and textures of nature. From yard to canvas. So I love this statement from Van Gogh. If you hear a voice within you say, you cannot paint, by all means, you better paint. You better hear that voice inside. So yours might not be painting, but whatever it is, listen to it. So showing this to Dad, you're probably going to leave and think, I'm glad Jamie has a day job. However, this is such a fulfillment to me. So I've always wanted a Penley. I just made up kind of my own. He is probably cringing now. But it's signed Gigi, so maybe someday my Gigi's will become famous. But that's the name for me from my grandchildren and my niece. And so I painted that with my little niece for her birthday. And she had a themed party, and there were 7 little girls, and they all helped me paint it. So there's joy in that. It may not be that great, but there's joy and memories in it. And this world is but a canvas of our imagination. So this one's a little out there, but I had an opportunity with my husband to visit Singapore. So when I came home, I was thinking pagodas and all sorts of things, and the blues in the sky there were beautiful. So my work is very abstract. Sometimes I have to explain what it is. But that makes me think of our trip to China and our trip to Singapore. So finally, think outside the box. I love the expressionist, the abstract expressionist Rothko. So the work there are all sorts of squares and boxes. So again, that could be a little weird, but it made me happy to paint that. So how do I connect this supposed artistic side of myself to what I do every day? First of all, I'm surrounded by professionals that move and shape the world of creativity. And so it's important that I understand creativity. I can't begin to do most of the things they do. I'm so blessed in my role. But what can I do for them to applaud their talent? So the first thing I try to do is be positive and supportive. I think a good attitude goes a long way. Secondly, I try to be present to give them what they need. And I'm reading a book that is entitled Leaders Eat Last. And so as I've gone through that, this is such a simple story, but I think about my grandmother has been rolling through my head. The whole premise is take care of everyone first, and then you think about yourself. I certainly don't always do that, but I do try to do it and keep it top of mind. And so growing up, every Sunday, my grandmother would cook this spread of food for like 20 to 25 people, whoever in the family wanted to come. So there were, 5 meats and 12 vegetables and pies and pickled things and all sorts of stuff. She would sit on a small stool in the back of her kitchen. She wouldn't touch anything until everyone was finished, and she would eat last. And so I kept thinking about her when I was reading this book. I want to work at eating last. And if we're true leaders, we step back and really make sure everyone around us has what they need. Secondly, I try to be a reminder of UCM's impact to the overarching vision in making this the best place to work, learn, and succeed, and where we do plug in. I try to inspire so no one feels barriers, give them the training, the development, the opportunities that they need, because they're the all-stars. And finally, that leads to applauding their greatness. So I'm very thankful to be around this team, and it's important to do kudos, and I think Best of the West is great, but we're working to kind of high-five each other on a great week or a certain project that was really done well. So by trying to support them, and again, kudos to April Saunders as Director of Creative Services, also to Taylor Bryant as Assistant Director of Communications, and Eva Hallman as Associate Director of the Web, and everyone left to their own devices, they blaze new trails every day. They go west every day. They support the Wolves. We do so much work for athletics in this great season. There's a change of perspective through the words and the visuals of our alumni magazine. We don't settle for business as usual, and neither does RCOV as an example of what we do across campus. And finally, this leads to the strategic plan. So how do you go from painting apples to the strategic plan? Everything that I can do to support this team helps in student success, telling our academic story through research. Everything is collaborative with partnerships. And then finally, there's operational success in how we achieve these things in making deadlines and making sure that we're state-of-the-art in all of our procedures. So thank you for letting me share my story, and I appreciate your patience.
Thank you, Jamie. So isn't her artwork great? Now, when we started this little project, I asked everyone about how we were going to connect their interest back to UWG, and the looks that I got. And I remember Jamie looking at me, and she was like, well, what do you mean? I was like, well, what do you like to do? And she was like, paint. You want me to show my paintings? I was like, yes, I do. But that's so important to her artful leadership. And without that ability, I wonder what our University Communications and Marketing team would put out. It would probably all be the same, but we know we have lots of different varieties that come out of that office, so we appreciate it. So when you take a moment to reflect, if I ask you that question, what do you enjoy doing? Just simply, what do you like? Could you write down a couple of items of things that you like? Don't worry too much about connecting it back to UWG just yet, but just write down a couple of items of things that you just enjoy. Do you like to shop? You know, we do have purchasing. Do you like to tinker with things? We have facilities and maintenance. Now, they would want you to know what you're tinkering with before you join their team. We'll write down those couple of items. All right, now as you do that, we're going to move on to our next person. Another thing that that I asked as I was listening to the stories of everything that people were sharing amongst our group, and for some, I captured down a statement that they made when they were sharing their story. And so you're going to see a little bit of that right below their name. And for Robin Smith, who I bring to the stage next, one statement that she made was, it's not just about cleaning, and Robin comes from our custodial services area. So, Robin.
Definitely out of my comfort zone. I started with University of West Georgia as a custodian in 2014. And it's our goal as custodians to create a clean and safe environment for students, faculty, staff, and visitors to our beautiful campus. I say it's not just about cleaning because from day one until now, my main objective has been to provide the best service possible. In order to accomplish this, I've had to do a lot of cleaning, a lot of listening, learning to communicate with diversified coworkers, upper management, staff, and students. I applied for several jobs with the University of West Georgia, but getting up in age, skills are getting rusty. I had no luck. I heard about custodial positions and started applying with no custodial experience. I'm not sure how many times I applied, but it was a lot, and I continued to get those letters that said, thanks for applying, but somebody qualified, got the job. Since I was working at the sewing factory and wanted to succeed at something again, I didn't give up on the applications. When I finally got an interview for custodial, Teresa informed me early on in the interview that I had applied for an intermediate custodial position, and I wasn't qualified for that, so I told myself I might as well kick back and talk to these folks, because I'm not getting this job either, but maybe it'll help for the future. Did I tell you that I was always scared to death of interviews? But I overcame that this day and got a custodian job. Glissette, my supervisor, put me in East Commons on the 1:30 to 10 shift. I about killed myself the first 3 weeks. I wanted that place spotless. It's very rewarding to clean something up and see the final result. But at ECD, the final result was by the time you get from one end of the dining room to the other, you had to start over. After realizing I couldn't keep it that way, I got a routine, got a lot of thank yous from the students and others in there. Well, when ECD closed for the summer, my supervisor thought I was 18 years old. One day I was needed for 4:30 a.m. to 1 p.m. shift. Next couple of days I had to work 1:30 to 10 p.m. Finally they got it leveled down to a summer schedule, and Glissette and Terry started putting me in different buildings and teaching me. I got a chance to work and learn my co-workers' buildings and got to know the people. I spent the summer lost sometimes in buildings. Terry worked with me a couple days and then cut me loose. Lost or not, I learned. They put me on a side-by-side at the Coliseum. I got knocked around like a ping pong ball. And the next day, I felt like I got run over by a truck. When Michael from the dorm crew finally let go of that side-by-side to have me try it again, it came easy that time. That might have been Michael's training, I don't know. I worked the 2014-15 school year with the dorm crew. Howard assigned me to Center Point. Most days I was happy where I was. I'm not going to tell you about the few times that were not cool. Michael told me one day that he would be coming by to extract my carpet at Center Point. I asked him if he would teach me how to extract my own carpet. He's a very hands-on leader, as I am too. He said he would teach me. I about had to kick him to let me get hold of that extractor, though. But he taught me well. I applied for every intermediate and lead position, even if I wasn't qualified. I got a bunch of interview experience. By now, I'm pretty good. I got turned down several times and was motivated by viewers to not give up, and I didn't. I have been a lead for 6 months. Now that I'm used to a routine, now I got to get used to flying by the seat of my pants. It was a struggle to begin, but we have some awesome custodians that have helped me make the transition better. I thank them all for their help. They teach me every day, and we try to motivate each other to get the job done and smile while we do it. I'm proud to say that our whole team works with a positive and helpful spirit towards students. Most days, we all have our days. I would like to quote Steve Harvey in closing. This is meant for my co-workers and the students of University of West Georgia. Identify your gift. What comes easy for you and gives you a good feeling? Do it. Set goals, manage strengths, and be confident. Keep developing strengths and work on improving weaknesses. Form partnerships with upper management, staff, and students. Believe in yourself. Success is all about confidence. It's not just about cleaning. For me, this is the best comprehensive university in America, and it's the best place to work, learn, and succeed.
Take a deep breath. I know. Felt the same way in my office. I was like, Robin. She sent me emails. She said, I'm not sure about this. I don't know what to say. And she read what she wrote, and we froze. It's not just about cleaning. And so Robin takes her interest, and her interest was her interest in people. That's what she told me when I asked her what she was interested in. I'm interested in people, and I'm interested in growing. But she found her way to connect that back to UWG. And so next up, I want to bring Katie Ross. And Katie Ross made a comment during my conversation with her, and it said, I look at admissions as a door opener, not a gatekeeper. And so she's going to share more about that.
And a reader. I'm not a public speaker, so bear with me. I'm going to try not to fly off the stage as I wave my arms at you. So, in my professional and personal journey, I've come a long way in overcoming many barriers to get to where I am today. I would like to share those barriers with you so that you can see how I connect to UWG and how I found my place and my purpose. The first barrier that I had to overcome, my perception of students. At a previous institution I worked for, I used to view students as a problem that had to be dealt with throughout the day as just another part of the job. The person that I am today cringes to even say that. The person I am today realizes that students are my reason, my purpose, my passion. But I want to share that negative perception with you because even if one person is impacted by my journey, then it's worth it. Admissions is not a gatekeeper. We, as employees of this university, are not gatekeepers. We are door openers. We are the first step or the 50th step of the student's journey. We are part of that journey. We are part of their dreams. I encourage every person in this room to look for ways to say yes to students, within policy, of course, and to look for ways to make a student's life better. Because even the tiny things, even the behind-the-scenes things that no one ever notices, those things can impact a student's life in a major way. We know this. Even if we don't see this every day, we know this. Much of the work we do in admissions operations is behind the scenes. It's easy to forget the impact we make, even though it is a huge impact. It's easy to get bogged down in the countless applications, the countless transcripts, decisions, and the data that we process. So that we don't forget that impact, admissions operations makes it a point to live out our gratitude to each other on a daily basis. We take the time to celebrate and to acknowledge our accomplishments and to thank each other and others for even the small things. Because it's those small things that build up to the large things. Every keystroke has the potential to change a life, to make a student's life better. It's this attitude of gratitude that drives many of my decisions now. Gratitude to students, gratitude to my teammates, gratitude to all the people who make an impact on others every single day. Gratitude and looking for ways to say yes. Let's shift gears a bit. Let's talk about that second barrier on my journey. That second barrier is my own self-doubt. Self-doubt is the enemy of ambition. It holds you back. Let me repeat that. It holds you back. Only you. For years, I believed the word leader meant boss or manager or someone overflowing with self-confidence. I believed people were born leaders. And if you weren't born with that self-confidence, that knowledge that you would lead and that others would follow, that you could never transform into a leader. I didn't have self-confidence. If you know me at all, you know I still struggle with self-confidence. There are days I ask myself, can I even do this? Can I lead others? Can I even really be an adult? But every day I get a little better, a little more confident. That self-doubt creeps away even a little because I realized leading is not some magic that only certain people can perform. It isn't a recipe. There isn't a manual. Anyone can be a leader simply by being themselves, by setting a good example, by loving what they do, by showing an attitude of gratitude, by being positive and self-reflective, and by holding themselves accountable. Through transparency and vulnerability, I've been able to accept these barriers about myself. Instead of viewing vulnerability as a weakness, I have realized that it is a way to connect with people and gain trust. It is a superpower. Most of the time when I have felt alone in this world or alone in my feelings, I've been able to share with someone else and realize that they felt the same way. If I am vulnerable and transparent about the mistakes I make and the struggles I encounter, the people I work with understand that I am human and that I struggle with many of the same things they do. This allows us to connect in an individual, almost secret way. The power of that connection is remarkable. It allows those people who may suffer with self-confidence and self-doubt like I do to see that they too can change someone's life for the better. They too can lead others. They too can change the world. Vulnerability isn't something you can just do, however. It's not a card that you can just play to manipulate someone. Trust has to exist before vulnerability truly has any kind of an impact. My vulnerability has become my interest and my passion in many ways. It's my leadership flag. It's how I express my passion, my journey. It's how I help others and how I impact others with my story. The barriers I've overcome that helped shape me as an employee and as a leader, I now realize that we all have helped shape me as an employee, as a leader. I now realize that we are all leaders, that inside of us all there is the capacity to change lives, no matter how behind the scenes we are, no matter how much we may doubt ourselves. Be a leader. Lead by example, by gratitude, by vulnerability. And remember the wise words of Marianne Rodmacher, as we work to create light for others, we naturally light our own way.
Thank you, Katie. All right. You did it. You rocked. That's what she sent me an email. She wasn't feeling good earlier this week. She said, don't worry, I'll be ready, and I'll be ready to rock. You did it. So let's go back to our reflection wheel. And we take a moment to think about our scope of work or our aspirational position. How could we now merge our interest into that? So I like to talk. Shocker. But that is what I get paid to do. I talk a lot. But that allows me to help people, to create and impact change, and bring folks together. I think that's part of my interest and has become my skill set, and now I can work doing it. So take a moment to think about that for yourself. Now I want to welcome our next person to the stage, Tiffany Parsons. And so you'll see her quote behind me. It says, "I'm not a teacher." And I'll stop right there. So Tiffany is a faculty member here at West Georgia. And we were working on her segment, and I said, okay, think about when you teach and your interests. And she said, "I'm not a teacher." That was her exact reaction. I was like, wait a minute, Tiffany, I'm pretty sure you're a faculty member here in West Georgia. And so I said, tell me more. She said, well, I don't think of it as teaching. And I said, well, how do you think about it? And she says, I hope to create more people that will go out and do great work. So I'll let Tiffany tell you more about that.
So I'm not a teacher. I'm not trained in education. I have no certificates in education. I'm a trained sociologist. And so when people say to me, "Oh, you're a teacher," I say, "I'm not a teacher. I don't know how to teach. I don't know the pedagogy. I don't know those things. But what I do know and what I'm passionate about, and it stems from my early life, my faith, growing up in the Baptist church. And I looked at that, and I looked back over my life. I was about 25, actually, before I came back and got my degree. And what did I want to do? I was old enough then to not have to do what my mom and dad told me to do, something that made money, right? So I looked at it and I thought, you know what I'm passionate about? What I do is I volunteer. I teach English as a second language to immigrants in our area. I traveled all over the world doing that. And I was interested in poverty. I wanted to help that. I didn't know what to do. But I knew that there were people in our community, I'm from this area for the last 20 years, that were hungry. And I thought, that's not right. I can do something about that. I have, some extra food in my pantry. And so that's where my interests began, was just looking around and saying, what do I want to do? It turns out I'm passionate about social justice and inequality. I didn't know those words then, but that's what it is. And so then I came back and I got my degree, and then I kept going and got another degree and kept going. And I just happened to have my interests line up with my education at the perfect time when a faculty position came available at my alma mater. And I was lucky enough to be offered that position as an instructor of sociology here at the university. So as I was doing that, I thought, well, I'm not a teacher. Again, I want to help poor people. I want to help immigrants, and I want to end it is really what I want to do, big term. But how do I do that? And then I thought, you know what? Resting back on my faith, God gave me this wonderful opportunity where every single semester I have 300 young people who are in my class going, hey, I'm passionate about that same thing. And so what I do in the classroom is not really teach as much as try to train up and give them experiences in going out to the food bank, working at the soup kitchen. And it's not all about inequality, that's my passion, but sometimes theirs is about aging or globalization or any of the myriad of things, deviance and criminal justice and all of those things. So in my classrooms, what I try to do is say, hey, you know what, I am never, and you'll hear me say in a few minutes on a video that says, I can't end homelessness on a national scale. But what I can do is help one homeless person get out of homelessness and never return to homelessness again. But I have these 300 people every semester, and if those 300 people will go out and end homelessness for one person, end hunger for one person, help with health care, getting someone the health care they need, just one, overall, that could be a huge, massive impact. And so I'm connecting, what I take is my interests, and I connect it to my job, and I work in it every single day. And like Juanita said, yeah, sometimes it's still work. I still have to grade papers and have tough conversations with students, but that's my goal. That's what I do every day. So I'm out in the community doing that work, and then I'm hoping to inspire young students to build up and go out and do what they want to do for the rest of their lives and make change in the world.
So Tiffany definitely goes out and she does great work, and she multiplies it times 300. So Our All-Stars have been awesome, haven't they? Let's take another moment. As you heard when Tiffany told her story, part of her journey in professional development was going back to school for her. It's not necessarily required for everyone, but it's a part of some of our journeys. And I know that session is going on next door. If you wanted to go to that one too, you'll be able to see it on Develop West if that's part of your story that you want to develop. But next, I bring Yo Christian. And the picture behind me is some of Yo's work. So when we were talking and trying to come up with either a phrase or a statement or a PowerPoint, when I was working with Yo, I said, you take so many great pictures and a lot of people don't know your face. So let's show them a picture that they may have seen around campus that you took. So if you recognize this photo of fireworks, it was taken by yours truly, Yo Christian. Sorry, I forgot to make this statement, but as Yo shares her story, you will find a connection between her and Tiffany.
Hi everyone. My name is Children Christian. Everyone call me Yo here because my maiden last name is Yo, spelled as Y-O-U. Like, Yo, come here. I always get confused because I will be, what's up? Never mind, it's not my name. I'm a senior visual services specialist at UCM. That means I produce videos and photos that make UWG look good. I always had people ask me, how did I get here? Well, I'm originally from Shanghai, China, and I was a swimmer for 18 years. I actually have 2 bachelor degrees, one in sports science, but I wasn't sure I wanted to keep doing something in the swimming field. And I had a big interest in the media world, so I got another degree in media in the United States. But honestly, why I chose this profession? Because I can't do math. Okay, I'm glad you guys laughed. I'm always afraid when I say jokes. Okay, so today I want to share my story about this collaborative project with Tiffany Parsons. A year and a half ago on a snowy day, anybody remember that horrible snowy day? I went to a homeless summit meeting at Tabernacle. I went there because I wanted to know the homelessness status in Carroll County, and I also wanted to find a way to help. Poverty has always been something that I have a heart for. Then I met Tiffany Parsons, a professor at UWG and also the founder of Homeless Men's Shelter in Carrollton. That instantly gave me the idea of why not make a video and let more people know about it. Gratefully, my supervisors, Stephen Broom and April Saunders, fully supported my idea and quickly made it to a professional development goal of mine. As a video shooter, editor, I've done commercials, interviews, promos, but but had not done any script writing because I'm not confident in writing my second language. So thank you, Taylor Bryan, for proofreading on this. But this project required me to start from scratch. It challenged me to do something that I'd never done before, which is documentary-style video and script writing. Since it's a professional development and personal project, it took longer than I thought. I'm just like everyone else on this campus. We have a job to do. And lots of times I would have to film it after work since the shelter opens 6 o'clock every night. But I was truly touched by Tiffany's story, and I saw a strong connection between UWG and the community through this piece. This shelter is run by Tiffany, our UWG students as interns, UWG alumni, and countless community members. This is not a story of somewhere far away. It's a true story that happens in our local community. The beautiful thing about this project is that I saw our strategic plan in this through partnership, in addition to many core values like collaborations and caring between UWG and our community. So some of you may say, well, I'm not a cinematographer or a photographer. how can I connect? We all work in UWG and represent the university within our community in a different way. I used to think my professional development had nothing to do with student success. But the more I stretched my skill that extra mile, I realized that everything helps to improve the image of UWG by telling the story of our very own faculty, staff, and students. So I encourage you to take your skills and passion to connect on a deeper level to UWG, the students, and the community. So here's a video. I hope you enjoy it.
So the current status of homelessness is that for us, particularly in Carroll County, the rate of poverty has been increasing in suburban areas, 5 times that of urban areas since the kind of economic bust. So we've seen in places like Carrollton and other suburban areas an increase in poverty overall, that the likes of which we've never seen before in this country. Parsons, and I'm a sociologist here at the University of West Georgia. I'm also one of the founders of Impact West Georgia, a local nonprofit where Hope Center is one of the divisions. When we began Hope Center, we were the only shelter, even an emergency shelter, or a transitional home for homeless men in a 10-county radius. So they had to either go to Atlanta or Birmingham.
Hope Center is a homeless shelter, an emergency shelter. We take adult men in who have no place to stay, and we provide them with the basic necessities, food, clothing, and shelter. In addition, we have a program where these men can participate so that they are no longer homeless and they get back on their feet again.
We don't count homeless people the way we count housed people. They don't raise their hand to be counted. So all numbers related to homelessness are at best estimates. It's difficult in this society to be an adult, able-bodied man and not be living independently. What people don't often understand is that the most of the homeless men who come through Hope Center, they are not severely mentally ill. They're not there because they're alcoholics. Many of them do suffer with alcoholism, but that's not the cause of their homelessness. They're not lazy. The vast majority of the men who've come through my center, and all homeless all over, want to work. Most of them do work, at least part-time, and it's very difficult to get a job when you don't have a job and when you're homeless because you don't have an address to put on the application. You don't have a place to take a shower. So even if you're capable with these skills, it's very difficult to get and keep good, kind of legitimate work, 40 hours a week, full-time employment. With 60 men a year, helping 60 men a year, that means you're seeing them. You're walking by them in Walmart, you're walking by them, they're working. So you see them all the time and you have no idea because they don't look like what the media tells us homeless people look like.
I've always had a passion for people and I didn't really know what it was. I had an encounter with a homeless man a few years ago which kind of fueled this, I guess. And I feel like through sociology and through the less fortunate and Manor House, I can do that.
Some years ago, I fell on hard times and found myself literally homeless. When that happened, there were people that were there to help me and get me back on my feet again. Brought me back to school, and I chose sociology. I wanted to get involved in some way so that I could help these men, like at Hope Center. There's somebody there to help them like there was to help me when I needed it.
When I graduated from university, I hadn't volunteered and gotten back into community service for about 3 years. And it was just something that I had been missing. So when Tiffany called me, I couldn't say no to the opportunity, not only to expand on my own professional background, but to get back into community service, something that I missed for so long. I believe it's important to give back to the community, especially one that's given so much to me. A lot of the homeless actually come to the library, which is where I spend a good bit of my time, including employment. and you get to know them and you get to know their story, and I felt it was important to be able to give back so much that, you know, even though they don't realize it, they've impacted my life as well.
We're always looking for students to help out in many capacities. If they don't have money, which most college students don't, they can donate their time, and we can put them to work to help these homeless men in many different ways. We had the Sociology Community Service Day where we had a lot of people help work on the house itself, do yard work. We have opportunities for dinner preparation and opportunities to help out in other capacities as well.
The school is very involved in the community, and I know a lot of the professors are coming not just from academic backgrounds, but they're coming from backgrounds of service, especially in the sociology department. One of the things that I appreciate the most is working with these professors and getting to know them, and they find your passion, and they come to know who you are. They foster your passion for service, and they bring that out of you.
It's not enough just to hand out bread. I wanted to do something that made a bigger impact. I went back to school to get my degrees in sociology, and that's how I ended up here at West Georgia. As a sociologist, I graduated with my master's degree here and began teaching here that next semester. I'm learning how to help the individuals. I can't change it at this point on a massive national scale, but I can help this man never return to homelessness.